How's that one? Is that one better? I'd like to call the September 23rd, 2021 regular meeting to order. I would like to introduce some of the commissioners, if I may. Mr. Bob Schwartz from Bowling Green. Mr. Leon Smith from Reed Church. Cal Horton from Port Royal. Purcell Minor from Mattapanai. I'm George Weaver, and I represent Madison. Staff, we have Mike Fitcham, our director. Where is he hiding? There he is. He's hiding over there. Chris McKenzie, our county attorney, sits up here to save us so we don't mess up too much. David Nunley, our environmentalist, over there. Craig Pennington, our planner. And Lisa Zeck, our administrative assistant and planning tech. I'd like you now to all stand and let's do the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. We have no approval for any minutes, so that part is finished, guys. But we have to handle our unfinished business, which were some of the applications that were presented to us at the last meeting. First of all, Sandra Brown, who's SPEX 03 2021, would like to have her motion deferred at this time. Is there any problem with that?
That's to the October 28th meeting, is that correct?
That is correct, sir.
Yes.
Can you have a motion, please?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. All right, now we're going to go on to the solar projects that have come before us. The first one is RZ 06 2021. And I'm going to put these together, if that's okay, Mr. Attorney, just that it's the same. Okay. And SPEX 04 2021. We had deferred this because we wanted the opportunity to go out and look at the sites and see what the development was going to look like and the entrances and so forth and so on. So at that particular point, we deferred it to this meeting. So now I will ask if the commissioners have any questions that they wish to ask at this time in reference to this application.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. This request for rezoning is closely tied in with SPEX 04 2021, directly across the road from it. I think it would be premature at this point to go forward with this rezoning request when in actuality it's contingent upon whether or not SPEX 04 2021 is going to get a favorable review from this commission and a favorable passage by the Board of Supervisors. They're so closely related that I think it would be inappropriate to go forward with the rezoning at this time.
Understood. Good point. Good point. I think what the commissioner is alluding to is the fact that these two are so closely related that if the special exception was not approved, then the rezoning doesn't make any difference. Is that correct?
Absolutely, sir.
So I would say at this particular time, we should still defer this, correct?
Yes, and you would want to make separate motions on deferral. So if you feel that the special exception is the precedential one, I would start with that, make a motion on that, and then you make a motion on the rezoning.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion, please.
So,
I hereby make a motion that RZ 06-2021 be deferred until our October 14th, 2021 meeting.
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. Continue, please. Bob, what do you want to do with the SPEX 04-2021?
My understanding is that was requested to be deferred until our October the 14th meeting. Now, if we need a motion on that, I'll be happy to make.
Please do so.
I so move.
Do we hear a second?
Second.
Second's been done. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, motion carries.
Mr. Chairman, for the record, that was staff's discussion with members of the Planning Commission. That was not at the request of the applicant. So that would be a county deferral
It's a county deferral.
on its motion. Yes, sir.
Okay. So which one of you people out there, Michael, is going to defer this?
You would make your motion would be to defer the action on the item until the October 14th meeting. So the commission has the ability to make that deferral.
Okay. So
You have
that-
not yet reached your time limit where you are obligated to act.
Well, in actuality, based on my discussions with our attorney, he basically said, just make it the next meeting.
Yes.
Okay. Right, Chris?
Right, yeah, I think we're talking about slightly different things. So the distinction that staff was raising was that at a certain point in time, we can't make any more deferrals on our own as a commission. They have to be voluntarily requested by the applicant, but we are not there yet. But we wanted to clarify that this deferral is being initiated by the planning commission and not by the applicant.
Okay.
So that's what staff is clarifying.
So the plaintiff is actually making the application to defer?
The planning commission.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, sir. All right, so now let us move on to SPEX 05-2021. This is the Racehorse Solar. Has anybody on the commission gone out to look at the site besides myself and Purcell? Are there any questions from the commissions?
Mr. Chairman, it was my understanding that this was also going to be deferred until October 14th. Am I incorrect in that?
Mr. Schwartz, we have not yet presented any recommended conditions to the Planning Commission on any of these items. We were waiting until tonight's meeting to see to hear if there were any comments from planning commissioners that they wanted us to incorporate into suggested conditions for your consideration. So yes, based upon the fact that we have not prepared any conditions at this point in time, and we're waiting to see and hear if there's any additional comments, I think it would be appropriate to defer this item to your next meeting as well.
All right, that's my misunderstanding.
And the same would be for 06.
Okay.
Okay, Mr. Fincham, that means that at the next meeting, whenever that should be, you will have for us documentation that we can review as to the restrictions or however you want to put it.
You will have that as part of a regular staff packet like we do for any commission meeting. Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. So I guess, can we have a deferral or do we just? Okay. All right, so Bob, you want to make a deferral for this one? SPEX 05-2021, please.
Mr. Chairman, I move that this SPEX 05-2021 be deferred until our 14th meeting, October 14th meeting.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. The next one is SPEX 06-2021, which is the Whalebones Solar. Do I have any questions from the commissioners? Hearing none, I'll ask for a motion, please.
Mr. Chairman, I'd make a motion that this SPEX 06-2021 be deferred until our October 14th meeting.
Second.
Hearing a second? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Now we should go into the public hearing for the new solar projects. This will be a public hearing. Lisa, would you please read us the public hearing protocol, please?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission. The purpose of a public hearing is for the Caroline County Planning Commission to listen carefully to the verbal expression of position and opinion from the citizens of Caroline County. Public hearings are not question and answer sessions or debates, and all statements should be addressed to the chair. When members of the public offer comment, they need to clearly state their name and address prior to making their comments. Applicants or their representatives will be allowed 15 minutes to introduce information regarding the matter advertised for public hearing. All comments are to be pertinent to the issue being considered. Persons speaking at public hearings are respectfully requested to keep comments brief, not to exceed 3 minutes, and to address only those issues pertinent to the matters advertised for public hearing. After the public hearing has been closed, the applicant or the representative will be allowed 10 minutes to address any issues identified by the public. I just want to point out that we do have a timer up here that can be seen by anyone speaking. So if you all would please keep an eye on that.
Also, when they're speaking, Lisa, they can see the time.
Yes, the timer's right there.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, what do you think, Purcell? Because you have an adjacent piece of property.
Yes.
Do you at least want to let that? Mr. Attorney? It's the 07, and it just, I think it should be at least exposed. Yeah, good.
Yeah, I personally am honored by being adjacent landowner. I'm excluding myself from SPEX-07-2021 and SPEX-08-2021.
Is that okay?
Just to confirm, Mr. Minor has recused himself, so he's not going to participate in the discussion or the voting on either one of those applications.
Okay.
All right, so it'll just be the remaining commission voting on that.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Purcell. Appreciate that. All right, can we have a staff report on SPEX 07-2021?
Mr. Weaver, the next two public hearings, the Shad Solar and the Muskie Solar, are directly next to each other. We can probably hear both of them at the same time and then have two motions if you would accept that.
That's fine. So they're next to each other. So, but we still have to make two separate motions, but
Correct.
we can hear staff report on both of them at the same time.
Correct. They're not just next to each other, they're on the same property.
Didn't hear that, Greg.
Not just next to each other, they are on the same property.
Okay.
So here's the staff report for Muskie. The applicant, Muskie Solar, is seeking special exception permit approval for a minor solar energy facility at 4.9 megawatts as per Article 4, Section 5.40 of the Caroline County Zoning Ordinance. This facility is located across two parcels, 54A 36 and 54A 58, to the west of Balti Road. It appears a portion of the identified buffer on the north side of the driveway is on a neighboring property, which would not be permitted unless that buffer area is included in this application. The buffer must be contained within the project parcels, otherwise there's no guarantee the buffer will remain for the duration of the project. Additionally, the use of the existing driveway within the buffer, while reducing unnecessary land disturbance, also reduces the area devoted to buffering to abutting properties. Additional buffering may be necessary to mitigate the driveway impacts to the buffer. The proposed interconnection needs to be relocated outside of the buffer to tax map 54-11-F. Additional design issues may be identified with a site visit. After review of this project in conjunction with the Shad solar project, staff believes that the two applications should be redesigned as one special exception permit of 10 megawatts due to the proximity of the projects to each other and common interconnection points. Staff sees no physical justification to separate the project's applications. A site visit by the Planning Commission would be appropriate. And the staff report for Shad. Shad Solar is seeking special exception permit approval for minor solar energy facility at 4.9 megawatts as per Article 4, Section 5.40 Caroline County Zoning Ordinance. Facility is located across two parcels to the west of Balti Road. It appears a portion of the identified buffer it's the exact same staff report. Sorry about that. But so staff agrees that Shad and Muskie are in the proximity that it could be looked at as one special exception permit.
Just a quick question. So what you're saying to me is these two properties are technically together?
Yes, and the two solar facilities actually touch each other at one point.
So would there be a, I guess I'll wait for the applicant. Because I would ask the simple question, well, why isn't it just one application? But that's okay.
I believe you would have to ask the applicant as to why it's not one application.
Okay. At this time, would the applicant like to make a presentation, please?
But you want me to do them all at once? Great. Good evening, Planning Commissioners. Thank you for hosting EDF Renewables and Old Dominion Electric Cooperative tonight. I'm here to present the Muskie Solar Project along with the Shad Solar Project. I do have hard copies of our presentation if anybody needs one. Is that needed? My name is Jackson Naptel. I'm a consultant for EDF Renewables. EDF Renewables is developing both of these projects in partnership with Old Dominion Electric Cooperative. So I have with me tonight presenting on behalf of ODEC, Kirby Jordan, who's the Director of Communications and PR for ODEC. Along with Kirby, I have Jeff Suttle, who's here from EDF Renewables Charlottesville office. Jeff is the Senior Director of Project Development for EDFR. I also have Kirk Johnson, who's Senior Vice President for Member Engagement at ODEC. Nakia Addison with TRC, who's the Engineer of Record for both of these projects. And Mr. Robert Upshaw, who's representing his mom, Miss Dorothy Upshaw, the landowner of this project. I'll go ahead and address off the top the question on why we submitted these as two projects. I'd first like to say that in the event both projects are built, EDF Renewables is willing to do the revenue share model with the county as required for projects that are over 5 megawatts. My understanding is that the county attorney is looking into that now and the rules around that. So we'll have to get back to you on that, but that's something we are willing to do, happy to do, and looking into. Shad Solar was originally proposed on a different piece of property owned by a different landowner. And after conducting land due diligence on that property, we realized that it wasn't feasible to build the project on that property. And about 6 months later, moved the project to the Upshaw's property. So originally they were proposed on two separate parcels. As such, these two projects are two very distinct projects. They both have separate points of interconnection. So the Muskie project is interconnecting to a different power line than the Shad project. They're on different schedules. They're running about 6 months apart. We have taken this to the Virginia Department of Environmental Quality to ask them how they'll review these projects, and they've confirmed that they're reviewing them as two separate projects, primarily because they have two separate point of interconnections, different fence lines, et cetera. I will say that requiring EDF Renewables to submit these as one project and getting one special exception permit will likely render both these projects unbuildable for a whole host of reasons. They're on different timelines. They're on different permitting schedules with the state. And additionally, when it comes time to finance these projects, it is going to be very difficult to get a bank comfortable with sharing a special exception permit with a project that they may not control. So I would politely ask that we are allowed to proceed with two separate special exception permits.
Yeah, and I might add that if you have a preference, if you would prefer to present separately and separate them, we can certainly accommodate that. It's up to you as the applicant. If you'd like to handle them separately, we could do it that way too.
Yes, we would like to handle them
Okay,
separately.
then
Thank
we'll
you.
just whichever one you want to proceed with now, let's do that, and we'll separate them out.
Excellent. We'll start with Muskie, and then I think we'll be able to move through Shad fairly quickly.
Okay.
The applicant of this special exception permit is EDF Renewables Solutions. EDF Renewables will be the developer, the construction company, and the owner-operator of this project. What does that mean for the county? It means that you have one company taking this project from inception all the way through construction and ultimately owning and operating it. So as we work with the community and the county and the Planning Commission and the Board of Supervisors to design a project that they can be proud of, it's that same company handling it the entire way and ultimately owning the project. You couldn't ask for a more qualified company than EDF Renewables. EDF Renewables has been doing renewable energy development in the United States for the past 35 years. They develop solar, wind, and battery storage projects. They operate 11 gigawatts of renewable energy. And just to put that sort of a frame of reference, that's the equivalent to about a dozen nuclear reactors. So a significant amount of renewable energy. Needless to say, they have the knowledge, the resources to develop a very high quality solar project at a low cost for the ODEC customers. To give a little bit of background about ODEC and the partnership between ODEC and EDF Renewables, I'd like to ask Kirby Jordan to come up and present a few slides to you.
Okay. Good evening. Thank you for having us tonight. As Jackson mentioned, I'm with ODEC, and we just wanted to give you a little bit of update about this project. We do have a great partnership with EDF and your local cooperative, Rappahannock Electric Cooperative, on this project. The great thing about this project is that it's 100% of the power generated will go to the homes and businesses right here in Caroline County. These projects allow us to invest in renewables and provide modest savings to the members. This solar power will be provided at a fixed rate for 25 years and diversifies our energy mix, making us less dependent on fossil fuels, which can have price fluctuations. The Muskie project uses our local distribution grid and reduces the expensive transmission system upgrades. It also connects to the co-op's existing infrastructure, and it doesn't require a new substation. So why solar? There are many benefits of having solar. It's clean, renewable, without using water, has no emission, and does not produce waste. It puts a little demand on the county infrastructure or services, such as roads, water, sewer, emergency medical services, or schools. Has a low visual profile, which is very important. It's quiet and won't disturb the rural setting, which is so important living here in Caroline County. I just have to add that I live in Goochland County and enjoy the county living very much and love the country drive that I came tonight. The land can be used for agriculture again at the end of this project. This project will create jobs locally during construction. There are also many economic benefits for contractor opportunities, equipment sales and rentals, purchasing materials, hotel stays, and meals at local restaurants. The benefits of distributed solar are listed here. The solar offsets the need for traditional power. We generate electricity in the local community where it is being used, and it stays right here. It connects to existing infrastructure, does not require a new substation or distribution line. It increases the resiliency of the local distribution grid, and it reduces the need for costly upgrades to the transmission system. It takes a much smaller footprint and uses tens of acres rather than hundreds or thousands of acres. So that is the update from our point of view for the Muskie Solar Project. And I'll turn it back over now to Jackson.
Okay, getting into the project details. Muskie Solar is located at 18279 Balti Road, about a half-mile south of Ladysmith Road, 1.25 miles west of 207, and 3.5 miles east of I-95. The project will occupy approximately 32 acres of 2 tracts of land that total 400 acres. So 32 of 400 acres that the Upshaws own. Muskie Solar will be using ground mount solar PV technology. It will have a capacity of 4.9 megawatts and produce electricity to supply about 950 homes in Caroline County. The project has been sized to meet the needs of REC's customers in this area. So the electricity will be used locally rather than shipped out of county. Muskie Solar is interconnecting to REC's distribution system via an existing 34.5 kV line. So no new power lines or substations will need to be built for this project, making this a cost-effective, low-impact project. I know that y'all have all seen this and reviewed this and provided very helpful feedback. Thank you for that. So I won't go into the details of it, but I would like to call out a couple items of note. Just to orient you, this is the conceptual site plan on the Upshaw's property. The top of this page is north. You have Balti Road off to the left of the page, or the west of this site. Our driveway to the solar project will come off of Balti Road using an existing driveway that the Upshaw family uses. All solar equipment will sit 2,000 feet from Balti Road. It'll be set back at a minimum of 50 feet from all property lines. And the Upshaw family has committed to leaving a 50-foot vegetative buffer of existing mature trees wherever they exist today. And that covers the northern edge, the eastern edge, a lot of the southern edge, the entire section along Balti Road. So a significant portion of this parcel will be preserved in trees all around the perimeter. The maximum height of all equipment will be 15 feet. There will be almost no concrete used. In fact, of the 32 acres, less than 1 acre will be impervious surface. So very little runoff. As I mentioned before, no substation will be constructed. We're proposing the use of a fixed knot agricultural fence as opposed to traditional chain link fence, which can sometimes look a bit industrial. And we're doing that in order to keep the character of the surrounding community. No lighting is proposed for the project. So once built, it'll produce electricity without any noise, visual, or air pollution. I know that y'all have seen this before in the previous solar projects that have presented. We're using similar technology, ground-mounted modules. So we'll drive I-beams into the ground without using concrete, put racking across those I-beams, and then lay solar panels across that. There will be a couple inverter transformer skids, which will have concrete under them, and those look like a small storage locker. And those will be on the interior of the project. There will be a weather station to help Edf Renewables monitor the project from their monitoring center. And then in the area, in box number 6 in the bottom right corner, you can see what a project of this size will look like once constructed. EDF Renewables has gone to extensive lengths to ensure that the environment won't be negatively harmed during the construction or the operation of the project. They've worked with the Army Corps of Engineers to delineate wetlands to ensure that they will not build in wetlands and that they have the appropriate 100-foot setbacks from streams. They've also conducted an environmental phase 1 to ensure that there are no endangered species or threatened species on site, and that has been confirmed. There were none observed. In addition, the United States Fish and Wildlife Service does not list any critical habitat for protected species on site. And of course, EDF Renewables will comply with all local and state regulations, including stormwater runoff, which will be tightly monitored by the state and the local government. They'll install erosion control measures to ensure that if there is any stormwater runoff, it's cleaned and properly distributed before it leaves the property. This is an indicative project timeline. As you can see, we are in the middle of state and local permitting. During the local permitting, EDFR spends a lot of time working with the community, and I think it's worth mentioning that we did have 2 open houses 2 weeks ago where we sent out approximately 30 letters to nearby landowners. During those 8 hours that we were on site, we had about 6 families or individuals come visit. They came with some really good questions, and from my perspective, when they left, they were all fairly enthusiastic about the project and the location of the project. We will get through state permitting and construction drawings over the next 6 months or so with the goal to start construction in Q3 of 2022. It'll be a 5-month construction process, and then after that, it'll sit quietly producing electricity for the next 25 to 35 years. At the end of the life of the solar project, EDF Renewables will decommission the project, return the land to the condition it was in before the project came, as required by the lease that is signed between EDF Renewables and the landowner, as well as a decommissioning plan that will be in place with the county prior to construction. That concludes our presentation of Muskie Solar. We are here to answer any questions or go deeper into any details that you might want to hear about. Thank you very much for your time.
I would like a hard copy of your presentation, please.
Absolutely. What's that? Yeah, yeah. And then will you throw Shad up and I'll run through that? All right.
Go ahead and do the next presentation. Chris, we can do these separate now?
Where are we going to take these? If we're going to do them separately, then we'll do the public
okay.
comment now.
Great.
Okay.
Okay, so you want to do
Yeah,
them
so we're
separate?
doing Muskie. We're on SPX 07 2021.
Okay, I'd like to open the public hearing for SPEX 07 2021 at this time. Anyone wish to speak, please do so. Step up to the mic.
Name is Robert Upshaw, landowner, representing the landowner. Lifelong Caroline resident as the Upshaw clan, which I'm sure y'all met a few of those. EDF approached our family a year or 2 ago. I could bring a whole fistful of letters from other developers for solar and development. I've been dealing with an onslaught of somebody wants to buy my land, somebody wants to lease it for solar. The reason I went with EDF is because Old Dominion Electric Corp. And that's what I told them when I met with them the first time. This farm has been in the family for all my lifetime. I got 2 daughters. One works here in the county, the other one in Washington. And if they're not going to want to farm. They have no use. They've told me so much. So
this is my way of anchoring this piece of property in farming for my lifetime and theirs too. So, it's just the best option I can come up with to what to do with my land. So that's pretty much it.
Thank you, Mr. Upshaw.
All right.
Anyone else wish to speak on XPEX 07 2021 at this time? One more call. Anyone wish to speak on this application, SPEX 07 2021? This time, I call the public hearing closed. Okay, so, Chris, we're basically just going to split these two now. Okay, that's fine.
We're on our
That's-
Q&A on SPEX 07.
Right, okay. Any questions for staff, commissioners, county attorney? We're all here. Go ahead,
Yes, I have some questions of staff. I can't remember in our ordinances, do we have a set height for solar panels? No.
There's a maximum height.
Yeah,
15 feet.
okay.
So you'll see most of the applications will be building to that maximum
Okay.
height specified in the ordinance.
And so I don't quite understand, the second question is about the buffer. Seems like there needs to be something modified because the buffer is not appropriate at the moment.
On part of the driveway, it appears on the site plan that the buffer is on the neighboring property. And
Okay.
so, yes, an adjustment would need to be made, either guaranteeing that that buffer on the other property is going to stay through some kind of agreement, or by moving the driveway and buffer onto the correct property.
So I would think that needs to be cleared up before we could, move forward. All right, that's all the questions I had right now.
Ms. Horton, the applicant can address the buffer question.
Oh, okay.
That was a good catch, one that we had also caught. And that was just simply a mapping overlay issue, where when we brought in the survey into our site plan, there was just it wasn't syncing up exactly right. In the version that we gave Mr. Pennington late last week, I believe, that has been corrected.
Okay, so we'll see a hard copy of that correction? Okay,
Yes.
thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Attorney. I don't know, this is probably not the right time to ask this question, but I am most concerned about the construction hours for when this project is being built. Now, I understand it's a very quiet system and it doesn't make any noise, but for a period of 6 or 7 months, all these solar projects are going to have the same issue, okay? They're all going to be driving piles to be able to support this system. Now, I don't know, I've stepped over the line a few times, it don't make a lot of difference. Are we able to establish a construction line, meaning you can start at 8:30 in the morning and you must be finished by 5 o'clock in the afternoon? Can we do that, sir?
Yeah, that would be a reasonable condition. I think staff might have something to say about it, but we regularly employ conditions like that.
Okay, because I mean, like I say, I know we've gone out, we've looked at these, when they're standing there by themselves, they don't make any noise at all, okay? But I'm most concerned about, we're building next to all these residential places. And I'm most concerned about the disturbance that be created at that time.
And I will say that the answer to your question is yes, that is a type of condition that would be appropriate for inclusion in the application. And secondly, in addition to that condition, as an overlay, you have the noise ordinance, which contemplates construction noise, has restrictions on construction noise, and that would need to be abided by as well.
Okay, thank you very much.
So I don't know if staff had anything to add.
Staff, we okay with that?
I was just going to let you know, the current noise ordinance allows construction noise from 6 a.m. to 11 p.m. And so, but you can condition it to allow construction during the hours that you choose.
Well, that's what I'm thinking, Craig. I mean, we've looked at some of these sites and there are residential homes that are close to them. Now, some of them are like the one that Angela Lynn brought in, that big one, okay? I mean, I don't think I saw a house anyplace. But on these smaller projects, I would be concerned that it'll be a very nice, quiet thing when it's finished. But before it's finished, if that were in my yard or in my neighborhood, I would not be very happy. If we can limit it, and I know you said 6:30 is our noise ordinance, but I think for these solar projects, I would like to see not 6 o'clock, I'm going to say 8 o'clock in the morning, okay? That's my own opinion, okay? Just making sure, Mr. Attorney, that's all. Thank you.
Mr. Weaver, do you have a suggested ending time that staff can look at to craft a condition?
8 a.m. to when?
Well, I mean, to me, I mean, I think of working people, I say, okay, from 8 o'clock in the morning until, let's say, 5 o'clock at night when the people come home from work. I mean, if I was having it in my neighborhood, that would be an acceptable amount of time.
Or possibly 8 a.m. to 8 p.m.?
I don't know. See, Carol, I mean, I guess if it was in my neighborhood, I would be concerned that when I come home from work, okay, I am not going to want to hear that pounding from 6 o'clock to 8 o'clock at night. That's just, again, it's just my opinion. That's all. I mean, whatever the commission agrees upon and staff agrees upon, and I'm fine with it. I just think somehow we're going to have to limit that. As far as I'm
Yeah, I
concerned.
think it should be limited.
Okay.
If you cut them off too early in the evening, though, you could make a project extend beyond the weeks that were planned. So the noise has been extended beyond the week, but
Okay. All right.
just a thought.
Okay. So at this particular time, Mr. Attorney, we're going to make a motion, sir.
You certainly can.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
I would have a few questions for the applicant. if you
Please, by all means, sir.
Mr. Nafta? Thank you for your presentations. Would EDF have the ability to sell their lease to any other company? Because you told us that EDF would carry this thing through from beginning to its demise in 30 to 35 years. Would EDF be retaining the right to sell their lease to another company?
I'm going to ask Jeff to answer that, the details of this lease.
Hi, good evening. Jeff Suttle with Edf Renewables. I think the short answer to your question is yes. So these projects are sort of financed in a few different ways. EDF, as Jackson laid out, EDF does sort of every aspect of the life cycle of a project like this. We're developing, we'll construct it. We do own and we operate projects. But to your question, we have, it's structured in a way that we could bring in a financing partner, or there is a chance that ODEC itself might step into the project, where ODEC would be the owner.
Okay, kind of what I thought. Thank you, sir. Now, either one of you gentlemen, in everyone's presentation, they say that the land can be returned to its prior use, such as agriculture. Do either of you gentlemen have any idea what it takes to develop land to where it is a viable crop field again? It doesn't happen just overnight. It takes 3 to 5 years of developing the land to where you get a viable crop, okay? I see that there are trees that are going to be cut down. This brings us into the forestry aspect as far as I'm concerned. To even grow a pulp pine tree takes 30 years. To grow a mature hardwood tree takes 30 to 40 years. So if we're talking about cutting down forest and timberland, using it for 30 to 35 years, we're going to have to wait another 30 to 35 years before those trees grow back to a mature state to where they're useful. It's going to have an impact on the wildlife. And absolutely no disparaging remarks to EDF or anyone that speaks here. But I'm just an old country boy, and I can tell you right now, if you start putting fences up, you're going to drive away the wildlife. That's just common sense. Can't help what the wildlife says up in their little castle. But it's going to have an effect on the land. It's going to have an effect on the forestry and the timbering, and it's going to have an effect on the wildlife. I was just wondering, because in looking at part of your presentation, and I'm going to stick right now just to the 32 acres. I see that there's a lot of acreage over here that's also owned by the Upshaws. And I'm just wondering why a bid has not been made to develop that as well, or is that something coming down the road in the future? That's my big question there. Are we going to be back in the same situation 3 to 5 years from now, requesting another SPEX to develop the remaining open fields? I'm not sure that there's an answer to that.
And I don't want to necessarily put words in the landowner's mouth, but I'll offer a couple of comments. Understood on the on the initial point about land taking several years to put back actually into where it can be growing crops. That's understood. The removal of the of trees. So the actual, I believe the landowner is already actually in the process of removing trees. That is going to be, the timber is going to be harvested from that property sort of regardless of, and I actually think that's perhaps happening in the next several months, regardless of these projects, whether these projects move forward or not. So, again, so it's out of the project's control. Happy to let the landowner comment on that if he'd like, but that's that's not beyond sort of the fact that they're already going to be removed. I don't have necessarily additional details on them. Regarding development of the remaining property, I just from speaking with Mr. Upshaw, from speaking with Robert, my understanding is he's had a lot of offers, both sort of residential and solar development. And I think to his point, he chose to work with Edf Renewables and ODEC on these projects. He has, again, I don't want to put words in his mouth, but he has mentioned either perhaps letting trees grow on the remaining portion of the property or continuing to use it for crop production. Beyond that, we EDF Renewables, ODEC partnership, don't have any rights to the remaining properties, and they do have, I believe, other properties in the immediate area as well, but just the ones on the sort of the in the immediate vicinity, those are the ones that are depicted here. We don't have any other additional rights to other portions of the land.
Yes, sir. And I wasn't trying to throw you a curveball. I'm just throwing things out that have come across my mind.
Understood.
Because even the Department of Forestry, if you clear cut a piece of land, you have to have a reseeding plan in place to, I believe it's within 2 or 3 years, that if the natural growth has not come back, then you have to reseed it. So I don't know how that's going to work out as far as the timbering. That's not going to be anything that I get involved in, but it's just many thoughts are going through my head about solar power, to be honest with you, in the land.
Yeah, and in this case, we don't necessarily have involvement with the timbering. But I will say, obviously, to the extent these projects move forward, we will be responsible for, of course, sort of maintaining ground cover for our project area.
All right, sir.
So
Let me ask you about the employment side of it, because you mentioned that it's going to create employment. Well, once the facility is constructed, it's pretty much self-sufficient. And what employment are we talking about for local?
Yeah, so during the, I'll start with the construction phase. So EDF Renewables, for a project of this size, will use a lot of local contractors, whether it's electricians, welders, grading companies. A lot of that will come from local contractors. To your point, once it's built, they do pretty much run themselves. However, there is routine maintenance that needs to happen. So there will be electrical needs to maintain the project, and then landscaping needs. And those will both come from local resources.
Because I didn't know whether EDF or some of these companies, they will bring in their own crews from out of state. And they throw in the sales pitch that it creates employment opportunities, when that's a big bag of you know what.
Yeah, on these smaller projects, it's very difficult to make a financial sense of bringing in big crews from far distances to build a small project.
Now, as far as decommissioning, the projected life of a project such as this, 35 years. Does that mean that at the end of 35 years, these panels are going to magically be removed and the land returned? Or would a company continue to use the same land, renewing a lease with the landowner? Would they continue using this same land as a solar project?
Both options are possible. So there's a chance that the solar project, the electricity is still needed, and the solar company could approach the landowner, try to extend the lease, come back to the county, and work on another 25-year project. The solar panels at the end of 25 years are still very productive.
Right.
And so in the event that it is actually decommissioned, because either the landowner doesn't want to do another project, the county doesn't want another project there, whatever it may be, you will see these panels either being reused in second and third world countries because they're still producing at about 80% of their original output, or recycled.
The bottom line is, sir, once you're in, it's going to take an act of God to get you out.
Well, Mr. Upshaw will control that because our lease doesn't get us out beyond 35 years.
You answered my question. Thank you, sir.
Sure.
Thank
Thank
you,
you.
Mr. Chairman.
Any other questions? Carol, well done. Sure.
I farmed this land for my whole life. And this land has been in trees, it's been cleaned up, put in crops, put in pasture, which is basically what this is gonna be. I've gone by 3 or 4 solar facilities. I go by one in Winchester almost every day. And I've been keeping an eye on them because, like I said, I got a definite interest in it. So we were getting into cattle. So we took 100 acres, put it in pasture. Farmers love pasture land. If all they got to do is lift the post out the ground, and everything underneath, and everyone I've seen has grass underneath of it. Farmer will be in there the next year. It won't be a big turnover. As far as the timber, we had already decided to cut the timber. And the reseeding is only if it's a certain percentage of pine. If you don't always have to, because 25 years ago, we let it grow up. My idea was cut the timber, let the pulpwood come up, cut it. The stumps were small, and then I get to pick and choose. Flat land goes in the crop, the rest goes in the thing. So I've been doing what I can with this farm for years. There's a lot of this land was in trees when I was a kid, and it's not anymore. And so, like I say, to me, the best thing about this, I get to do what I want with this land instead of what I have to. And as far as the intern, it will probably be my kids who decide, because 25, 35 years, I don't even know if I want to be here. And like I said, it may go right back in, or like I said, pull in posts out of ground, and it'll either be pasture or cropland. But like I say, as long as they keep writing checks, yes, I will probably have it in solar.
Mr. Upshaw, can I ask you a quick question while you're here? Out of these two projects, the Muskie and the Shad, how much of your woodlands on those property are you timbering right now?
All of it. The whole farm will be timbered.
Okay.
All 400 acres, which will be about 200, or half of it, say, is in timber, the rest is in crops.
Okay.
And from my perspective, watching them build, the one down at 295 and 64, yeah, there's a bunch of people in there with four-wheelers running down there. It's not really a big deal. And it's like I told my neighbors when they were talking to me, I said, okay, in harvest time, you got tractor trailers in and out all day long and late into the night. Every 3 years, they put sludge down. And for 2 weeks, it's just tractor trailers. So my opinion is it's not going to be as bad as that. Like I say, yeah, there's a couple months, but after that, it's over. It's quiet. There won't be no cows, hogs, or nothing else there. So it gives, I don't see where it's taking anything. And then when you look at the tax revenue that this land is going to produce for the county, it's to me a win-win. Unless I'm completely blind. So anything else? Hey, and if they give any trouble, you come talk to me.
Okay, well, one of the things that's going to happen is, just like the last time we did the solar projects, I would like staff to see if we can set up some kind of appointment to go out and look at the piece of land that's there, determine where entrances are, where roadways are, and so forth and so on. So Craig, you can take care of that? Okay? In that case, can I hear a motion, please?
I'll make a motion. Whereas the general welfare and good zoning practice warrants, I move to defer SPX 07-2021 to October, or late October meeting.
That's good.
28th.
Yeah.
October
28th,
28th.
is that the date? Okay, 28th.
Hear a second.
Second.
Hear a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none. Thank you.
Thank you.
Motion
I knew I
carries.
was gonna-
Now we're going to move on to SPEX 08-2021, Shad Solar. Staff report will be basically the same as the last staff report, correct?
The staff report is exactly the same as the last staff report. I would move forward with the presentation for the sake of time.
Okay, I guess we should hear the applicant if he wishes to step up again and,
Good to see y'all again.
yeah, thank you.
Once again, I'm Jackson Aptel, consultant for EDF Renewables. Presenting the second project that was discussed quite a bit just then, Shad Solar. I will try to move through this quickly because I think a lot of this is repetitive after going through Muskie Solar. Once again, I'll be presenting. Kirby may come up here briefly just to talk about some of the subtle differences between these two projects, but I don't think she'll go through her entire presentation again. EDF Renewables, you heard about them in my previous presentation. Just to reiterate, they are operating 11 gigawatts of renewable energy throughout the United States, equivalent to about 12 nuclear reactors of renewable energy. Long story short is they know what they're doing when it comes to building and operating solar projects. Kirby, do you want to come up here and speak briefly about the differences between the two projects?
Yes, I won't go through all the details because it's so similar to the Muskie project, but we definitely want the two, even though they're similar projects, we want them to be different because they are on the different power lines, as Jackson had mentioned. We really hope to work on this project. We are the local power company, and we'd like it to stay local here in Caroline County. That's really all my comments between the two projects.
Thank you. So Shad Solar is also located at 18279 Balti Road. It is just northeast of the Muskie Solar project, so sits a little bit further off of Balti Road. It is another 4.9 megawatt project connecting to Rappahannock's distribution system on a 12.47 kV line as opposed to a 34.5 kV line, so slightly lower voltage. This land is also owned by the Upshaw family, about 400 acres between the two parcels, and Shad Solar will be using roughly 34 acres. This is the conceptual site plan that y'all have seen. We have taken your feedback into back to our civil engineer, and they're working on amending it. I think we've already corrected the driveway issue, and we will also remove the interconnection run that was running through the vegetative buffer. We'll move that out and relocate that just outside the vegetative buffer. This project, same technology, same look and feel. The biggest difference is it sits over 3,500 feet off of Balti Road. So I don't think it will be visible at all from Balti Road. The same vegetative buffer that I mentioned for the Muskie project will be in place for Shad. So it will be well screened. And we're proposing to use that same agricultural style fence on this project. The interconnection point is located just to the northeast of the project, and that will be very near the same interconnection point of the Muskie project. Same equipment being used for Shad Solar that will be used for Muskie Solar. So I'll skip this slide. And the same land studies with the same results were conducted for Shad Solar. So when EDF Renewables studied the land, they studied this entire area. They didn't study it as, just on the project area. They studied the entire parcel, or at least this half of that parcel. So similar results. And of course, we will comply with all local and state regulations when we build and operate the project. The indicative project timeline is, it tracks about 6 months or 3 to 6 months behind the Muskie project. So I'm sorry, it's about 3 months ahead of the Muskie project. I'm sorry. In the same construction schedule, it'll be about a 5-month construction period. During that period, there'll be about a month, maybe 6-7 weeks where there's truck traffic. And since this came up at the last presentation, I'll address it in a little more detail. Typically, there's about 10 tractor trailers a day during the traffic period, during that 4 to 8 week period. And after that, it's very minimal traffic. It's just basically getting the folks on site to build the project. So there is a traffic study underway that TRC is working on, and we will come to the county with a proposal on how to best flow that traffic during the period. Similar situation here, we have a requirement in the lease to decommission the project, and we'll also have a decommissioning bond in place with the county before construction, or decommissioning agreement in place with the county before construction. That wraps it up. I don't think I need to go into any more details after the discussion we just had on Muskie, but I'm here with any questions or happy to go into more details if you would like. Thank you.
I do have a question.
Yes.
So you mentioned that you're offering revenue sharing to the county on the first project. That's the same with the second project?
Yeah, what we're proposing is that, so the state rule is that if a project is over 5 megawatts, you're required to do the revenue share. What we're proposing is if both projects are built, we would provide that revenue share since y'all are sort of looking at these as one project.
Then you're talking about annually, correct?
Correct. And once again, the county attorney's looking into the rules around that.
Yeah, that condition is under review with our office, and we will report back. But like any other, cash proffer, we have to look very closely at it. And because this is a below a 5 megawatt project, the same rules don't apply as the major project. So we're analyzing it, and we're going to issue a report to staff.
So basically, if it was compliant, Chris, then it would fall into that.
It would be a major project,
Gotcha.
yeah, but this is a minor. So it's being treated differently, and this is not the only project to offer a condition like that, so we're looking at it for all of them.
Yeah, because we even have a letter up here about how much money is the county getting out of these projects? Because that's something the citizens are asked a lot, and that could be a big benefit to the county to have big tax money coming in.
Absolutely, and without a drain on county resources as well.
Right.
With no fire, no school, no police, very little use of the roadways, so it is a purely upside for the county.
Not as much traffic,
Right.
et cetera.
Open the public hearing. Okay, at this time, I'd like to open the public hearing on SPEX 08 2021. Public hearing is now open. Does anyone here wish to be heard on SPEX 08 2021? Last call. Does anyone here wish to speak on SPEX 08 2021? Public hearing is now closed. Any questions, commissioners? Any issues?
The only thing I would say is, I guess, staff need to notify us, if this needs to stay 2 projects or 1 combined project. I know you had some comments on it, but you may have some different comments in the future, so just keep us posted.
Understood.
And I would say until we can get out there to look at the same kind of conditions, Craig, please, I would say that we might want to make a motion at this time.
I'll make a motion. Whereas the general welfare and good zoning practice warrants, I move to defer SPEX 08 2021 until our October 28th meeting.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Hearing a second. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none. Motion carries. Thanks,
you.
Carol. All righty.
Mr. Chairman, can we take about a 5-minute break, please?
That would be a darn good idea. Yes, we're going to take a 5-minute break, please. Thank you. Sorry, I'd like to bring the, you have to tell me to turn the mic on, you know? I'd like to bring back the public hearing for SPEX 09-2021 and SPEX 10-2021. Can I have a staff report, please?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Staff report for SPX 09-2021. A portion of the property subject to SPEX 10-2021 for Frog Solar Center LLC is located within the Dawn growth area and the half-mile buffer thereto, which is identified on the Solar Energy Overlay District map. Article 15, Section 23.6 contains the general district standards for major solar energy projects. Section 23.6.2 states the project shall not be located on property within 1/2 mile of the boundary of a designated growth area as identified in the Caroline Comprehensive Plan. In developing and adopting the regulations, county recognized there may be occasional situations where a proposed project may find it difficult to meet one or more of the general district standards in 23.6. To that end, the board adopted language in 23.6 that allows consideration of a request for an amendment on a case-by-case basis, which states, the Board of Supervisors may modify these standards upon application for and approval of a special exception use permit specific to the standard for which a modification is requested. Upon finding by the board that the applicant has demonstrated that this proposed modification reasonably protects and promotes the public health, safety, and welfare with respect to the application. The area is a mix of agriculture, forest, and single-family dwellings. Commonwealth of Virginia Department of Corrections Camp 2 is located at the intersection of Camp Road and Courtney Road to the south and west of the subject property. Much of the ag forest lands are large tracts of land suitable for development at such time as development pressure makes financial sense to abandon ag forest uses. Comprehensive plan designates the area within the Dawn Village Growth Area as village preservation, which states, this designation applies to areas on the village fringe where lots have been previously subdivided and developed, but are experiencing water and sewer problems that create public and health safety issues. These areas are intended to be served by public water and/or sewer without encouraging significant density increases. The overall density should not exceed 1 dwelling for every 5 acres, with a maximum lot size of 2 acres. Any development under this designation should retain at least 50% of the property in open space. Development under this designation will be subject to the development standards for the agriculture conservation overlay and complement the development within the village. Development at a density consistent with the Dawn Village Plan requires a rezoning to zoning classification that meets the lot sizes, densities designated in the plan, as well as the provision of public utilities. Public sewer is available and can be extended from approximately 1.5 miles to the west along Courtney Road. Public water will require the construction of an on-site system. Costs of developing property to the densities envisioned in the plan area are likely to preclude such development in near to midterm within 25 years. The alternative development potential is the permitted by right density of land zone rural preservation, which is 1 dwelling unit per 10 acres of land, which does not require public water or sewer. Development at such low densities would likely discourage continued ag forest uses, as well as limiting the potential to achieve the desired long-term land uses envisioned in the plan. An interim use of the land as a solar energy project within the buffer and Dawn Village Growth Area could benefit the long-term fulfillment of the plan by discouraging premature development that negatively affects the future planning and development objectives of the community. A site visit to tour the site area by the Planning Commission would be appropriate.
Thank you, Craig.
And would you like the staff report for SPX 10 also for the project itself? Staff report for SPX 10 now?
Yes,
Okay.
yes, they're doing.
Staff
same
report
time.
for the project itself. The applicant Frog Solar Center LLC is seeking special exception permit approval for a major solar energy facility as set forth in Article 15, Section 23 of the zoning ordinance. This project is situated on multiple parcels totaling 914 acres with approximately 650 acres of solar panels and equipment. The proposed facility is located on the south side of Frog Level Road, north and south sides of Heron Creek Road, and the east and west sides of Camp Road. A portion of the property subject to the application is located within the Dawn Growth Area half-mile buffer there too. The staff report that I just read for SPEX 09-2021 addresses that issue. A recommendation for approval of this special exception application can only be made subsequent to the recommendation of approval for SPEX 09-2021. Map 1 identifies the relationship between the subject properties and the growth area. The area is a mix of agricultural, forest, and single-family dwellings. Commonwealth of Virginia Department of Corrections Camp 2 is located at the intersection of Camp and Courtney Roads to the south and west of the subject property. A site visit to tour the site area by the Planning Commission would be appropriate.
Thanks again, Craig. Would the applicant like to step forward and speak on his or her behalf?
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the Planning Commission. My name is Karen Cohen. I'm an attorney with Gentry Lock in Richmond, and our firm represents the applicant, Frog Solar Center. We appreciate the opportunity to come before you this evening to present the project and want to express our appreciation for the work of staff and the commission in adopting Caroline County's solar ordinance. As Mr. Pennington explained, the ordinance acknowledges there may be projects that require a modification to a development standard and provides that the applicant must have a separate SPEX for that specific modification. So that is why you have before you SPEX 9 and 10, but it is one and the same project. So I'm here to respond to comments as may be necessary during applicant's response time, but I did want to turn it over to Frog Solar's representative, Kirsten Holland, senior project developer. And so she's going to present, I guess, really on SPEX 10, the substance. It's really just one presentation for both SPEX 9, which is the modification to the one development standard. But she's really presenting, it's the same project, so she'll be presenting SPEX 9 and 10 together, if that's okay with you.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and members of the Planning Commission. My name is Kirsten Holland, and I appreciate the opportunity to be here tonight to present the Frog Solar Center to you. Frog Solar is being developed by Ørsted, a global renewable energy company with a development office in Charlottesville. We've been developing solar projects in Virginia since 2014. The Frog Solar Center is located about a mile east of Route 301, south of the Frog Level Road, and north of Courtney Road in Caroline County. Spanning about 650 acres, the project will generate 71 megawatts of electricity, which is roughly the equivalent of powering over 13,000 Virginia homes each year. And the project will connect to a 115 kilovolt transmission line that runs to the south of the project, and it's slated to operate for 40 plus years. Through this project, Ørsted is committed to helping grow and diversify the economy of Caroline County. Over the 40-year life of the project, Ørsted will pay an estimated $9 million in additional tax revenue to the county, plus will make additional payments according to a siting agreement currently under negotiation. This additional revenue can directly support county services and improvements, such as priorities like broadband. Regarding the timeline of this project, we are wrapping up the site diligence right now, and we've completed nearly all of the studies and assessments that are required for us to really get a strong understanding of the underlying characteristics of the land. The utility is performing its final of a three-part study process. We held a public meeting for this project, both virtually and in person last week, where we invited neighbors to learn more about the project and ask questions. And the next phase of this project will entail going through the permit by rule process at the state level. And assuming that everything remains on track, we anticipate the project going into construction in late 2022 and going into commercial operations in late 2023. Regarding the site diligence we are conducting for this project, we have completed all major environmental, cultural, and engineering assessments required to really give us that comprehensive understanding of the underlying conditions and characteristics of the site, to inform the development of our preliminary site plan. Our Phase 1 environmental site assessment found no recognized environmental conditions on the site. We have completed a wetlands delineation, and the Army Corps of Engineers is planning to walk the site next week to verify the wetland boundaries that have been set. All wetlands for this project will be avoided during construction, and that is shown on the site plan that you should have in front of you. We've also completed a cultural resources assessment, and the Virginia Department of Historic Resources has provided comments to develop best management practices to avoid impacts on culturally significant areas in the vicinity. We have also completed an assessment of threatened and endangered species in the area, which found no species of concern for this project. And this assessment was reviewed by both the Virginia Department of Conservation and Recreation and the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. In addition, we have completed all of our geotechnical survey and our hydrology study, both of which will inform the plan and design for stormwater management controls on the site. And then finally, an independent third-party engineer has conducted a decommissioning study, and this will inform the amount of the financial surety for decommissioning that will be posted prior to site plan approval. You may read the full text of the proposed decommissioning conditions in the packet in front of you, and these conditions guarantee that the citizens of Caroline County will not be stuck with any waste at the end of the project, or should it no longer be operational. And then finally, I want to directly address some of the ways that Ørsted is planning to mitigate and alleviate some of the common concerns around solar project development. We are fully committed to developing projects responsibly, and we make every effort to listen and address concerns as they arise. First, we are committed to serving as long-term stewards of the land. In fact, as a publicly traded company, Ørsted has actually committed to that all future projects will have a net positive impact on local biodiversity. In the case of Frog Solar, we are pursuing net positive biodiversity as shown in the proposed condition 9 to plant native vegetation and pollinator-friendly vegetation to support the health and well-being of the local ecosystem. Additionally, we conduct robust studies and assessments early in the development process to ensure we fully understand the site conditions and are effectively mitigating impacts on wildlife, environmentally sensitive areas, and cultural resources. You will note the 4 wildlife corridors we have included in the site plan that will allow wildlife to move through the project and around the project. We often receive questions regarding visual and noise impacts as well. And to address the former, we have proposed comprehensive visual buffering and lighting restrictions as part of conditions 8, 9, 10, and 11. Regarding noise impacts, the only equipment that emits any sort of sound once the facility is operating is the inverters and the trackers, the inverters and then the motors and the trackers. Both are very quiet. Generally, a soft humming can be heard when standing directly beside them, but they will be inaudible from the fence line. And to the question earlier about construction, we have actually directly proposed that pile driving, which is the loudest part of construction, would be conducted from between the hours of 8 a.m. and 6 p.m. Regarding stormwater management, that's also a critical aspect of project design. The state requires robust stormwater management and erosion control features on the site to prevent runoff, and we, of course, will fully implement those as well. And then finally, we know both the Planning Commission and other residents in the county have asked for a guarantee regarding decommissioning to return the land to its pre-construction state. As discussed, previously, we, and as detailed in condition number 12, a decommissioning bond will be posted prior to site plan approval, and the amount will be reassessed by a third-party engineer every 5 years. And then one last thing I wanted to quickly address is we did receive a comment regarding some concerns around visual impact and buffering, and we are planning to make sure that the facility is fully visually screened from the perimeter. And so we're making sure that we're complying with all setbacks in the ordinance, and we'll be planting vegetation for anywhere that doesn't have existing vegetation already. So in conclusion, I am requesting the Planning Commission approves both SPEX 09-2021 and SPEX 10-2021 based on the merits of the project design. The project complies with the solar ordinance. It incorporates all staff comments, and it will adhere to all conditions once they have been proposed. I and my colleagues Ryan Gilchrist and Jamie Mears are available to answer any questions and address any concerns you may have. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
I have a quick question before we start the public hearing.
Absolutely. Go ahead.
So, well, either the applicant or staff can answer. This is the total 2 applications together are 650 acres of panels. 2 together add up to 650?
So the first is a modification to the ordinance that would basically allow for the project to be sited within the development growth area.
Yeah.
And then the second is for the project itself, which will be sited on or constructed on 650 acres.
So we're talking about a total of 650 acres of panels.
Yes.
Correct? Okay. And total, I think you said 751 megawatts?
71.
71. 771.
Just 71.
Okay.
Yes.
I was thinking that.
Yeah.
Okay. Got it now. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Where's Craig? Question for staff. There he is. Craig, is that green line, sorry, on the drawing, is that green line the boundary of the growth area?
What page are you on?
Oh, that's one here.
Oh, this.
Yeah, I'm just trying to figure out if this is the line of the primary growth area. Because that's what's in question.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, if you look at the map, you'll see the tan dashed lines. That is actually the growth area boundaries.
So
The green line is the 1/2 mile buffer that's referenced in the overlay district regulations.
okay, so that's the encroachment that they're looking for approval.
Yes, and if you actually see the properties identified in blue, which encroach into the buffer area and a small portion of the growth area to connect to the transmission line, that straight line roughly running east to west is the transmission line that they would propose to connect to.
All right, so this is the, Michael, help me. Because I don't, okay. This is the straight line here?
No, that's the growth area boundary.
Okay.
Right,
Okay, so now where is the transmission line that they're going to connect to?
If you look at the bottom of that page where the blue shaded area ends.
Yes.
Okay, there's a line that last piece of property touches that roughly runs east to west. Straight through.
Show me, Mike, please.
I think it's the
Right
blue
here.
line, the power line. Blue line is the power line, correct?
Yes, the thin blue line is the power line.
Okay, so this is the one he's talking about, that's a power line. Carol? Sorry,
Yeah.
I don't see this good. I hear that.
I think it says blue down here, power line. So yeah.
Okay. So that's the line they would be attempting to connect.
That's the line they would be connecting to. And part of the request for the modification is to allow them to connect to the line at that proposed location. So your buffer modification and encroachment into the growth area is in part to allow them to connect to the transmission line where it's shown on the map.
Okay, so now what you're saying, Michael, is they're going to come straight down?
Yeah.
This blue line that's right here, they're going to come down to here.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. I'm sorry, guys. I don't see too well. Okay, we'd open the public hearing. Okay, I'd like to open the public hearing for SPEX 09-2021. Can I do it together, Chris? And SPEX 10-2021. I'll now open the public hearing. Anybody wish to speak? Please step up to the mic.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman. Thank you very much for allowing us to come visit you today and talk about this. My name is Kevin Engel. I'm, along with my family, own a good portion of that land that this project would be going on. I've worked with Ørsted for a right good while now, and they seem to be a very good professional company, very polite and very concerned and caring about neighbors and just an overall quality project. I started my farming career in Caroline County on the Meadow Farm where the fairgrounds are. And my family and I, together with my 3 children and my wife, we farm in quite a few counties in the state now. And but my heart's always been dear to Caroline County because that's where we started. And we have this project here before us. I bought this land to clear it, to farm it. And one of our things that we do in our farming operation is we grow crops for food and energy. If you see our trucks going up and down the road, there's a label on the side that says growing crops for food and energy. Well, corn and soybeans get used for ethanol. We used to have an ethanol plant in Hopewell. We do not have one anymore, but there's still a lot of corn products used for ethanol, and certainly soybean oil that's extruded from soybeans is used for biodiesel. In fact, we burn a lot of biodiesel in our fleet. So I see this as a way for this land to even more efficiently produce energy in the future. And as many of you know, coming from Caroline County and having an ag background, farming can be a little bit challenging some years when the weather and the markets work against you. One thing that would help our operation a lot is the stability of the revenue coming from this enterprise. And that's what we had to look at as a family and say, how can we stabilize our farming operation a little more consistently? And this looked like a good option, and it still met our mission, which was growing food and energy for the common good of the public. I would like to point out one thing about where you were looking at the line, Mr. Weber, earlier, going to the main transition line. That property coming from the main portion of the solar project, running to, connecting to the main line, would not actually have any solar panels on it. That portion of the property is only going to be a power line. Sir? I'm done. Okay. So I just wanted to make that point. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. There he goes. Yes, you may speak. Please step and speak on this application.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the council. My name is Bingham Jones. I am one of 2 trustees for our family's farm adjacent to the proposed project. It's at 19324 Heron Creek Road, immediately adjacent to the east side of the project between Heron Creek and Heron Creek Road. Thank you for allowing me to speak. My comments are provided on behalf of the family. Since the early 1970s, our family has owned 3 parcels in Caroline County of about 288 acres along Heron Creek Road, located immediately to the east of the project. The September 9, 2021 letter of notice of this meeting received mid-month was when we first learned of the proposed project, and since then, we've come to better understand the scale and proximity of it with the assistance from your office and the developer's recent webcast. We had not been previously invited to any meetings to discuss the impacts from Frog Solar, and candidly, the notice we received this month does not provide enough time for us to gain full resolution of the issues we face as immediately adjacent neighbors. First, our family is speaking up on this matter because its change of ownership several years ago, since its change of ownership several years ago, activity on the project property immediately adjacent to our farms, our family's farm, has been undertaken without consideration for its impact on our property. There's no existing screening between our property and the proposed project, and we're concerned these issues will only worsen if the proposed project moves forward as planned. The Frog Solar Center plan indicates a 25-foot buffer of existing vegetation between us and the solar panels, yet the fact is, based upon my personal walking of the property line, is that such vegetation is minimal to non-existent. The project property was cleared of trees and other natural vegetation all the way to our property line without retaining any recognizable buffer. Since our new neighbors deforested and cleared their land for cultivation a few years ago, such activities, while wholly in keeping with agricultural preservation, an undertaking without regard to the attendant increase in stormwater runoff onto our property. Between 40 and 50 acres of the project property is part of the watershed for perennial creeks flowing into our pond, and for nearly 40 years that the land was forested, there was no perceptible excess stormwater runoff, and the pond remained clean and fishable. Yes, sir. Another inaccuracy in our property is shown as vacant on the proposed plan, whereas it has been our family homestead for over 40 years. While no improvements on the parcels contiguous to the project, we have lived, hiked, fished, hunted, and farmed all 3 of our parcels as one. The waterfowl, turkey, deer, rabbits, and other wild animals that frequent our land are also travel the project property, and are not the solar projects in this area required to have wildlife corridors and mitigation plans to support natural habitat of these animals. Such does not appear to be the case.
Okay, sir.
We appeal.
I have really only one question, if I might ask. Is this your piece of land over here, sir?
I can't see that.
Well, I can't. Craig, could you I'm just trying to, I mean, I hear you discussing it, but I'm just trying to figure out if this your piece of land. Is this his piece of land, Michael?
I'll take a moment to clarify something before we get any further along with the public comment, which is because we're doing 2 applications, we're going to give speakers 6 minutes. So if the earlier speaker who got 3 has anything additional to add,
Michael, can I see?
you're welcome to come back, and we're going to give each applicant 6 minutes. So we've got about, 2 minutes and change left in this speaker's allotted time.
Thank you, sir.
2
Continue.
minutes, 2 minutes left.
You have 2 minutes remaining.
Am I allowed to finish? I believe I jumped away from the runoff. I'd like to continue by saying that since the land next door was cleared and cultivated, our pond has routinely exhibited the unpleasant odor of materials used to treat it, and moreover, has been damaged or washed out nearly a dozen times. In view of this history and the fact that no one has contacted us yet, we're concerned the stormwater runoff issue will only worsen, so we're now asking for your help. I believe I already spoke to the fact that our property is presented as vacant on the proposed plan, whereas it's been our family homestead for over 40 years. While there are no improvements on the parcels contiguous to the project, we've lived, hiked, fished, hunted, and farmed all three of our contiguous parcels as one, and it has never been vacant. There's a tenant in the house, and family members are planning to live there. Waterfowl, turkey, deer, rabbits, and other wild animals that frequent our land also travel the project property. And I believe I mentioned that there does not appear to be any provision for corridors and so forth to preserve the habitat for those animals.
I thank you, sir. I mean, I think you did a good description of your use of that piece of property and what it looks like, and now I know where it is, so I feel a lot better.
We would appeal that if the commission is not inclined to recommend denial of the project based upon the intervention on the COD and the comprehensive plan designated growth area, they would at least agree to defer the matter until we can meet all the neighbors and the applicant in order for the applicant to make significant changes that demonstrate commitment to being good neighbors. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Yes, please. Anyone else wish to speak on this application? This is his property. It's on that east side. Yes, ma'am.
Good evening. My name is Cynthia Green, and I live on Courtney Road. First of all, I would like to say that the letter we got about a week and a half was not enough time for us to investigate and get familiar with this project. I'm very concerned about the timeline that we were just given this information. We have also, my sister has a home on Courtney Road. We have never received any invitation to any public meeting other than the meeting tonight, was a week and a half ago. We're very concerned about this project. This is a very large project that would be producing a lot of electricity. I'm very concerned about the safety. I have a friend who lives next to the Mudville solar project, similar to this one, and both have died with cancer. Their home is directly next to a solar plant. I'm very concerned about the wildlife. I can look out of my window any morning and see the deer, turkeys, rabbits run across my property. I'm concerned about the eyesore of what this may be in this very quaint, quiet country. So I ask that you defer this project to the neighbors can get together and learn more about it and be able to come up here and make their recommendations, because there's a lot of other neighbors on Courtney Road that are very concerned that could not be here tonight. So we ask that you defer this project tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Cynthia. Anyone else want to be heard on this application at this time? Thank you.
Good evening. I'm very shy, so I apologize for that. Hunter Southworth. Property is 103A15. It's been in the family for hundreds of years, as far as I'm aware. I guess my main concern was the same thing, communication. We didn't really hear anything about it. I know there was a letter that went out for the open house, but most of us did not receive it. I did find out, trying to contact the company, found out about the open house and was able to attend. I guess part of my confusion, being a rural preserve area, I wouldn't expect such a large solar farm to be coming there. I did plan to build a house there in the next 4 to 5 years, and definitely is a concern for me. And another concern is Orsted. And I've talked to them about it before, and they said they probably should have it. They have no phone number on any of their websites. I had a very hard time figuring out how to get in contact with them, which also leads me to be a little more concerned about how they're going to move forward with this project. And I know they said there's going to be a 50-foot buffer zone that we wouldn't be able to see through, but it's just going to be a chain link fence and some trees. I assume are shrubs. Not really sure how that's going to provide adequate privacy. I just wish they worked with communication with us a little better. When I bought the land from my dad and his brother, I went around to neighbors, said, hey, talk to the forestry department. They said my trees aren't going to get any bigger. Now's a good time as any to cut them down, replant them. I just wanted to let them know what was going on. And there was no communication from either the company or any of the 3 landowners. I think it should be deferred to until we have some more time to talk about it, discuss it, and have a little more time to plan. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to speak on this application at this time? Please step forward.
My name's Matt Delk. I live at 19450 Heron Creek Road. It's actually addressed as Ruther Glen, Virginia, which is quite a ways away from 1 mile just east of the intersection of Camp and Heron Creek, right in the heart of this proposed project. We, my wife and I, have yet to receive anything other than a yard sale sign at the intersection to know what's going on. It's quite early for us to be able to make an accurate assessment about this project. I don't have any problem with anybody trying to better themselves or look out for their well-being and their family. But my wife and I plan on living our days out at that address. I would like to have more information about this project before it proceeds. We ask that you would defer it. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else wish to speak on this application?
Yeah, my name is Ryan Gilchrist. I'm with the developer. I was wondering if I could respond to a couple of those questions. Or not yet. Okay.
Not yet.
Great.
Not time. Is there anyone else that wishes to speak on this application? At this time, I'm going to close the public hearing. Now, Mr. Applicant, this is your turn. If you wish to get up and defer some of this information, then please do so.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My name is Ryan Gilchrist. I'm Director of Development at Orsted. Three of the main concerns that I heard were the wildlife corridors, stormwater controls, and then the visual buffer. So I would just like to direct you to the conditions that have been proposed along with the project. So number one, on the visual buffer, there's the landscaping proposed condition, which requires that the planning department walk the site prior to site plan approval, and they'll instruct where a buffer needs to be planted and where one does not. Right now, the site plan is just based on aerial imagery. So just in response to Mr. Bingham Jones's comment, it's a great comment. It looks like those trees must have been taken down since that aerial imagery, but the project is required to plant trees there. The second point on stormwater, it sounds like from the prior clearing of the land that the conditions may have gotten worse on the neighboring parcel. And the reason why, this will actually improve that. And the reason being is that DEQ actually imposes extremely strict stormwater controls on solar, whereas they don't do that for corn and soybeans. So that will actually improve. And the third point on the wildlife, the project, it's bisected east to west by one road and north to south by another. And it's also built in two sections. You see that smaller section to the west that's separated by just a distribution line that'll connect the two with no fencing around it. So there's essentially 3 wildlife corridors already built in there, separating the project into 4 sections. So we believe that all of the concerns that have been raised will actually improve with the solar farm. And I'd like to address the communication too. You know, what we do is we pull the GIS records and we mail a letter to every address that is adjacent to the property. It sounds like some of them didn't make it through. I'm not sure why. So just to address that, we're going to leave a big stack of business cards at the back of the room here. And I would encourage everyone to take one and contact us, and we can try to arrange another open house, potentially even on the site. That's all I have, unless you have questions.
No, that would be a good idea, because it sounded to me like people in the area do not know exactly what's going on. So that would be a good idea.
Yeah, it was my understanding that there was supposed to be an open house, a community meeting, but I guess
there were 2 last week. One was virtual and one was in person. It sounds like some of the folks got the letters because we had, I want to say 6 or 7 dial into the virtual. And then we just had 1 attendee plus one of the landowners at the in-person. So it sounds like the postcards that we had sent out, there must have been an issue if only a couple of people actually got the dial-in instructions. So we'll do it more directly, and we're happy to do that so that between the Planning Commission and the Board of Supervisors, the neighbors can be more informed.
Yeah, because we have maps, and we can tell where you want to place your panels and such, but you know, there was no overhead, you know, presentation. And so the people out here couldn't exactly see what was going on. So I think, I think I'm in agreement. They probably need to know that type of information. Also, where are the houses in relation to this? I don't know if that's something that the company wants to answer, or you, or staff.
So they're called out on the site plan. There's a measurement. It's called out, it's measured in feet on the general development plan to every adjacent structure. So that would have been in the packet.
Well, I'm sure we'll do a site visit and we can kind of tell where the houses are, but kind of need to know where the houses are in relation to the project.
Yeah, right, Carol. And when you look at it, you can't, I mean, I look at this and I do this for a living, and I can't tell where the houses are either, so.
Yeah, I'm sure, I mean, we'll visit the site, and our staff will provide us with some information. Right. So I'd like to know how close the houses are, even though I know there's going to be fencing and screening and you know, all the regulations will be followed. You know.
Yes, and we're eager to host.
Just the community needs to know too.
Yes, we're eager to host the neighbors and the planning commissioners on site if you so desire.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
I don't have any other.
No.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, please go ahead.
I've always felt that if you're going to start a project anywhere and you have neighbors, friends, or whatever, you generally have a meeting letting them know what you want to do. Now, this is not the first time this had occurred. And what happens when the people get here in this building and start discussing about it, they didn't know or don't understand what they're doing, then that makes it difficult for the panel up here to even make a decision. And there's a lot of faults I find that they do this quite often. And I can understand having that much land down there in that area, excuse me, in that area. And then you have a lot of water down there. So I can understand these people complaining right now about not having enough time to analyze what they're into. Now, what I would like to do is to table this until to the next meeting.
Well, Leon, we would want to go out and look at the site anyway. So, I mean, we would be in a position where we would like to defer this until we get the chance to look and these people out here get a chance to understand what this developer is trying to do.
Yeah. I move that, that we table this, Broad Level Center, request, which is SPEX 10/2021 until the next meeting.
Oh, 09 and 10. But you need
Yeah,
two
we're going to need
motions.
one motion for each, correct?
Yeah, let's do one more, and we need to clarify which meeting, because we.
One motion for each item and clarify that you want to defer until the October 28th meeting.
That is correct, Mr. Fincham. So that would be, we'd like to defer SPEX 09/2021 and SPEX 10/2021.
Separate motion, please, just for clarity.
Okay.
Yep. So let's do it. I think.
Okay.
We have,
Fine.
I don't think I'm out of state. The motion that I think is for you is a motion to defer SPEX 09/2021 to your October 28th meeting.
That is correct.
Mr. Chairman, before you vote on that motion, is Mr. Leon or Mr. Smith asking to continue the public hearing or just defer to the next meeting?
I want to defer it.
But then, so you've closed the public hearing, so just so you understand, that means that it'll be unfinished business at that meeting. And there won't be any more public comment
On the 28th.
on the 28th. It'll be
Okay,
unfinished business.
so we'll make a motion to defer SPEX 09/2021 until our October meeting, October 28th meeting, correct?
Okay.
Second.
I heard a second?
I think, Mr. Chairman, I think we were just trying to clarify Mr. Smith's intent. Does he want to continue the public hearing, or does he want to close the public hearing and just continue, as you said, the item to unfinished business? I was somewhat of the impression that Mr. Smith wanted to actually continue the public hearing, but I don't want to put words in his mouth.
Well, I would say, Mr. Fincher, at this particular stage, we would like to defer because until we go out and look at that site, even Mr. Smith can't make a decision. Sorry.
Right. So, well, I think we're just in a procedural clarification point, and we need to figure out what motion is before the Planning Commission right now. So we need to clarify from Mr. Smith whether your motion is to defer and continue the public hearing to allow more comment from the public at the next meeting, or to defer and have it be unfinished business with no more public comment.
Say that again? Yeah, the muffled, I can't understand.
Yeah, well, Mr. Fincham.
Mr. Smith, the question is, do you want to continue the public hearing and allow citizen comment again at the October 28th meeting? So you would actually continue the public hearing tonight to the 28th? Or do you just want to close the public hearing and just discuss this item as unfinished business? Do you want to allow more public comment?
I don't want to continue tonight. I want to
Right.
until next month.
But do you want to allow public comment again at the next meeting?
Yes.
That's okay.
So we're just deferring this.
That's the motion. Now we've clarified what the motion is. So now you have to vote on that motion.
I'll second that motion.
So the motion is deferring it to October 28th, and at that meeting, there'll be more public comment.
Correct.
And I believe you have a second from Mr. Short.
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. Now we have to do 10, SPEX 10-2021.
And for clarification, do you want the same motion to continue the meeting and the public hearing to October 28th?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Okay. Want to second that? Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. Now we need a motion. Oh, we got to do any and all matters. Jackie, none? Okay. We need a motion to continue a meeting to Thursday, October 14th, 2021 at 7 p.m. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. And now make a motion to adjourn.
We're just continued to that meeting, so we're done for the night.
Okay, thank you.